Good afternoon and welcome to everybody that's joined us today. My name is Ken Annandale, and that image that you see there on the screen is not me. It's just part of the advertising. But you'll get to know Penny and myself as we go along. Lovely to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. I know that you received an invitation saying QCTO or become accredited training provider and so forth. And that's what the intention of this presentation is. If you don't mind, grab a notepad, write down any questions you may have, so that right at the end we can take questions and obviously answer them as quickly as possible, either personally or in a one-on-one session afterwards. They're all very important. At the same time, I'd also like you to mute your cameras and mute your microphones so that there isn't much disruption. Those of you that came through our normal marketing mechanism would have registered, so we have your details, and thank you very much for that. Today's presentation is going to focus on our Black Friday offer on becoming a QCTO accredited training provider. I'm sure many of you have had the experience of working with the SETAs and SACWA and NQF and QCTO, and what we're going to do is we're going to expand on it, our current knowledge as to what's happened recently, very exciting stuff that's happened, and how we can take advantage of that in the marketplace. So just to point out that I'm not a lawyer, I have a background in law enforcement, but if you do need legal advice, it's important that you actually consult a lawyer. And for those of you that are here that have not registered via the normal channels, you might just have received the link. Please take a photograph of the screen. That's the marketing department's cell phone number, 082-499-6911. 082-499-6911. Or you can go onto our website and register over there. That means that we get your information because we've got a lot of documents and things that we'd like to send you. And if you're online with us, we'll be able to do it really quite easily. Okay, so Penny and I started the organization INTRA-SAFE about 12, 13 years ago. And our primary objective was to help people set up their own health and safety training companies or internally their own health and safety training departments. So we've been doing this for the past 13 or so years, and we've been doing so very successfully. On the left-hand side, you'll see some of our team. On the right-hand side, you'll see some of our licensees that spread from Cape Town to Cairo. And it's very exciting that we're able to actually work with these people, help these people, assist them as we grow our businesses, and obviously that things change in the marketplace. And when I say things change in the marketplace, there's this whole shift from the SETAs to the QCTO. And we also see new legislation in the form of regulations coming through. Very important that trainers know it and are up to date so that they're training and assisting people with the right information. Okay, now, at the start of this presentation, we say there is a document called the prospectus, which you'll get if you go onto the website and register there. If you haven't received it yet, please go onto the website and we'll send you the prospectus. Automatically, it'll just arrive in your inbox. And in the prospectus, you're going to find almost everything we say today. And we're currently upgrading the prospectus because of some changes that took place yesterday, which are very exciting. Okay, as a foundation, we recognize that there's about 17 million, maybe 16.5 million people that fall under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. So that is a huge market from a market point of view. We know that we've got the Health and Safety Act, we've got the Mines Health and Safety Act. The Mines Health and Safety Act has about 500,000 people, we're told, that fall under that legislation, but the rest of South Africa fall under the Occupational Health and Safety. And that does not include the unemployed people. So from a marketing point of view, it's a massive market. I'm going to just quickly extract a couple of sections from the Act. We'll have a look at Section 8 very, very briefly from the Occupational Health and Safety Act, where it says that the employer must do the following. In Section 8, the employer must establish the hazards and the precautionary measures that need to be taken when it comes to managing those hazards. That makes sense. You can have a look at Section 8D and E. Then it says the employer must provide the relevant information, instruction, training, and supervision based on that hazard identification and the writing of the precautionary measures. So for anybody getting into the health and safety game in South Africa, this is your foundational section. You do need to know that, because based on that, it then starts expanding. And in Section 13, it says the employer shall cause every 17 million people, or 16.5 million people, every 16.5 million employees to be made conversant with those hazards, as well as the precautions to be taken. So in other words, you know what the dangers, hazards, and risks are, and you then run training programs specifically for those employees. Now, the question is, what kind of hazards do come up? Well, I've created a list over here, and you might find these are appropriate, because these dangers, hazards, and risks are things which we encounter in the occupational health and safety world. And you can see there's lots. This is not a complete list of the training that needs to take place, but it's just an indication of the size of the market. So we've got 17 million people, and we also have all these topics and more that we need to make sure that employees are familiar with and conversant with. Okay, the next question is, who does the training? Well, in terms of the Act, it's the employer. The employer does the training, but the employer can't because they're busy. So it says here, the employer must cause every employee to be made conversant. So cause every employee to be made conversant. So they can do it themselves, or alternatively, they can hire somebody to do it. That could be a training provider. And that training provider is known in terms of legislation as a mandatory. Very important that you take note of this, because as a mandatory or contractor or freelance trainer, you have responsibilities. And I'm going to just show you what your responsibilities are. In section 37, it talks about acts and omissions by employees or mandatories. Wow. All right. So in other words, if you're going to be doing training for people, that training has to be up to standard. Otherwise, it might not be. And it says here, whenever an employee or mandatory does or omits to do an act which would be an offense in terms of this act for the employer or such user to do, he, the mandatory, the contractor, the freelancer, shall be liable to be convicted and sentenced in respect thereof, as if he or she were the employer or user. Now, please note, very important, it's like a word of caution. Quality, 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 diligence, 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 at every single step of the way. Now, people often ask me, but am I allowed to do this training? The answer is yes, you can. There is a document that I wrote some time ago called Am I Allowed to Do Training? And you can download that or request it. And once you've been through it, it illuminates where you can do training. Now, what if the training doesn't work? Or what if the employer doesn't do the training? Well, it says in section 38 that any person, who's that? Any person, any person, employer, contractor, mandatory, whoever it might be, or employee or member of the public who's guilty of an offense and convicted in terms of this act, the fine currently is 50,000 Rand or imprisonment. But with the new amendment bill that they've been talking about for some time now, it jumps up to 5 million Rand. So it's a great incentive for employers to have training done, because who's going to spare 5 million Rand lying around? Not us, definitely not. And it's a bit of a threat. I don't like threatening people with the law at all, but it is the reality of it. Okay, so now the question is, would you like to provide training as a provider, like a service provider, or as an in-house trainer? And that's something that you would know. If in-house, there would be a number of reasons why you do it. Financial, compliance, customization, that you can be risk-specific, efficiency, knowledge, where you want to grow your staff and your team, and so forth. These are things and reasons why employers would like to do in-house training. But then there's more. Maybe you say, well, no, that's not for me. I'm not an in-house trainer. I want to be a service provider. And from a business point of view, it's important that you know that it's a business. And to put a business like this together, you're going to have to go through the hoops and hurdles required by the South African government. And there are a host of things that we can guide you with. And we'll be able to provide you with information on it, good and bad. And some of them are bad, such as tax compliance. If you don't pay your taxes, you're in big trouble. And now, here's a question which often comes up. And people say, but must I be VAT registered? The answer is yes and no. Die Afrikaans het gesegde ja, nee. Yes and no. Must I be VAT registered? No. If your turnover is less than 1 million a year. Yes. If your turnover is higher than 1 million a year. So you can see how people just stumble into trouble without even considering it. And then, of course, there's all the other things like, do I have to be accredited? Must I be approved? And how does the Consumer Protection Act govern us? And what sort of guarantees must I provide? And we'll talk about that. Then you're going to find that there's different types of training. There's legal compliance training where the law says do it. The law says identify the dangers, hazards, and risks and do it. It might not tell you exactly what you must do. And the second type of training is what we would call credit bearing. Credit bearing training comes from accredited training. Credit bearing as in there are unit standards and or at least nowadays codes and curriculum that allocate credits. But more about that, and when we get into it, you'll hear that we have orientation sessions and we unpack all of these things. Now, for you, if this is the first time that you're getting into training, it's something that you might never have done in the past. It might be something that you're entering, you're doing a research and so forth, and well done and welcome. But it's important to know the difference terminology. And I come across it all the time. Penny and I and Natalie and our team, we come across it all the time. The other day, somebody said to me, is your training material accredited? No, because there's no place in terms of the legislation and or NQF for accreditation of training material. And today I saw somebody that says he's an accredited training material developer. Really? Where in the legislation does he see that? So he makes it up. In any case, it's important that you know these words, the difference between accredited and agreed upon, and aligned, and approved, and certified, and competent, and compliant, and registered, and verified, and licensed. Now, we're the guys at the bottom. We're the license in terms of the Consumer Protection Act. Now, looking at those over there, it's so important that you have a clear understanding of what these terms mean. Competency is one that you're going to have to study so you understand the definition, because competency is found in the law, first and foremost, and secondly, in either the unit standards or now the QCTO curricula. Need to know that definition clearly. But having said that, that's what we do, is we'll help you to get to know these terms. Now, question is, when must training be accredited? Well, I said that competency is found in the law. And you'll see that there's a definition like this in a number of the regulations. So if you know the legislation, you know there's an act and there's about 23 regulations. And in some of them, not all of them, some of them talk of a competent person. So knowing that, you'll see this in the general safety regs, the driven machinery regulations, the construction regulations, the ergonomics regulations, and so forth. Asbestos, explosives, commercial diving, hazardous biological, hazardous chemicals. And right at the bottom, physical agents risk assessment, where the physical agents regulation, they say that the risk assessor must be accredited. My apologies, must be competent. Okay, but now, here's an interesting thing. This is just an aside. Currently, they're talking about the draft construction regulations, and they've taken that definition out. The definition being the words where appropriate qualifications and training are registered in terms of the NQF, the National Qualification Framework Act. They've taken it out of the draft regulations. So you, as a trainer, need to know these things, because if somebody says, I demand that it is accredited, that the person be competent, and you, if you know the law, you can point it out to them and say, really, okay, this is what I read. Now, having said that, lots and lots to learn, and opportunity by the dozen. So we say to people like yourself, we say, if you'd like to become a training provider, we would suggest that you become an intra-training provider. And what we did, what Penny and I did after I ran a training company for many years before we started INTRA-SAFE, we put a business model together, which in terms of the Consumer Protection Act is called a license. And these elements come up in the license. I'm going to run through them very quickly. Firstly, we've got licensed business opportunities and options, and you'll see there are different licenses. Then we have an onboarding session, so that once you joined, you have a general idea of what you've got. Then we have 3 to 4 hour business orientation sessions, and we have training material orientation sessions. You'll meet Natalie, and she'll talk a little bit about her online marketing setup. And then we've got training material and more training material and even more training material. We've got legal compliance training material. We've got SACWA training material. We have QCTO training material. We have an e-learning platform. And we host regular webinars and product updates and meet the people. And from there, we say, right, maybe you're ready for QCTO accreditation. Now, remember, you can't get SETA accreditation anymore. Let me say that again. You can't get SETA accreditation anymore. They've cancelled it. The Department of Higher Education cancelled it. So you have to look at QCTO. And today's presentation is going to talk a little bit about that. Okay, and then once you've got all of this together, the sales and marketing and network opportunities are amazing. Well, okay, I don't want to get into too much of this. We'll do a little bit of that as we go along. And remember, all of that is in the prospectus document. Now, we have 4 different licenses, or maybe 5. There's the starter, the basic, the prime Plus, and the Platinum license. And we're going to suggest that you focus on the Prime Plus, because that's where literally the equipping takes place in its full sense of the word. Get hold of a copy of the prospectus. Make sure that you have a good understanding of what it is that we do. I've just extracted some of the things from the prospectus over here. And when you get hold of the prospectus, you can look at these elements and see how you could benefit by becoming a licensee. Now, with that in mind, there's a lot more to this than just, oh, wow, I'm going to run training programs. No, you're going to run a training company. And I would suggest that you get to know what you bought if you're going to come on board. Get to know it. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask you or suggest that if you have a family member who's an accountant or an attorney or someone like that, or has been in business for a while, get the document, print it, go through the document with your highlighter, make sure that you draw up a list of questions, and then we can have a one-on-one session via Zoom or WhatsApp or something like that. Okay, moving on. Now, what other support do you get? Well, with the training material, we've got two categories. We've got legal compliance training material, and then we've got the credit-bearing training material. INTRA has developed over the years 26 training programs, and there are more to come. I'm currently working on another one, and it's going to be on power tools. So those are the programs that you could run tomorrow without accreditation, and you can run them as legal compliance training. So that's very exciting. It means that if you want to go into this business and start generating money with our training material, you can do that. So once again, we've got a training material catalog, which outlines all the training material that we've got, the 26 programs, and what's in the course. You'll see in course content pages in the catalog. Okay, then we have the e-learning opportunity. I'm going to ask Penny just to quickly introduce that to you so that you have an understanding of the complexity, but also the sophistication of the e-learning program.
Thanks, Ken. So with the e-learning, we have a couple of different options available for you. When you start, generally speaking, you might not have e-learning available on your own website, so you can piggyback on our system. You sell it through to your client, and we charge you a flat rate per learner per course, and you charge your client a suggested rate, and we go through that in the briefings with you, and you pocket the difference. So it's a great income opportunity for very little activity from your side, because we do the heavy lifting in terms of uploading your learners and tracking your learners for you, and you just work together with your clients, so you're not involved in the classroom face-to-face the whole day. The second part of the option is where you have enough resources now that you want to evolve your own website and control your own payment gateway. And it's attractive then to take on 18 courses that are already ready to go, and it's kind of like a plug and play. And then we just charge you a flat rate once-off IP release, and you can rock and roll with these courses and evolve them and add to them and make them your own on your own website. A third option is whereby you actually want to partner with Prime Learning, who is our principal partner with the e-learning, and then you would do a separate contract together with them, where it's more involved in terms of all the features and benefits that they can offer you. But this is incredibly popular for our licensees. Not only does it act as a reinforcement of their face-to-face training, and often they can book in like a month's time or 2 months' time, a refresher course in terms of the e-learning. But it's also very, very helpful where you're dealing with clients that are in multiple venues and they don't really have sufficient numbers in each venue to warrant you traveling to that venue. This is a great way that you can do all the legal compliance, tick boxing, etc. So a great addition to your suite, if you like, in terms of your training provider business.
So Penny's the custodian of the e-learning program, and she's to be thanked for putting this together, which is really, really quite good. Somebody asked me a little while ago, and he said, yeah, is this credit bearing? In other words, is it accredited? Well, first and foremost, it's important to note that QCTO favors e-learning nowadays. And then secondly, it's not credit bearing. It is legal compliance. Because remember I mentioned section 8, and it says identify the dangers, hazards, and risks, and then it goes on to say, and provide information, instructions, and training. This is a typical information session. So if you take somebody and you put them through the ergonomics program as an example, that person would be informed as per the legal requirement. And remember, the Occupational Health and Safety Act is actually criminal legislation. So if you send somebody on the ergonomics program, you're complying with the law, or the employer is complying with the law. So thanks, Penny. All right, then we have more training material. Now, because of this transition from SETA to QCTO, we're still left with a lot of training material, which is good. The content is good. However, they are phasing this out, and in due course, it'll be replaced by QCTO curricula. And we've got about 40 programs all told over there. Now, very important when it comes to accreditation, I'm going to ask Penny to talk about this as well, that you understand that these two words, approved and published, are vital. Again, something for you to know and understand. What's approved, what does that mean? And what is published, and what does that mean? Penny runs a workshop, and she's going to tell you about that now.
So we're running a special do-it-yourself program to help you and empower you to be able to do your own QCTO accreditation. We decided to invest in this process in January of last year, as we could see that over the next year, 2 or 3, there's going to be a huge number of skills programs, part qualifications, full qualifications in health and safety coming through from the QCTO. And we're so excited that we've just seen yesterday that at last, they've published another 11 QCTO OHS skills programs. So we're super excited to have those available for you. In the do-it-yourself process, there is a combination of a monthly workshop, consultations as you need via WhatsApp, and a Google Drive Accredited, which has all of the different lists and checklists and QMS templates and etc. Then we have a Prime Plus version whereby we project manage your accreditation with you. So there we really get into a hand-holding type of relationship with you and make sure that from your application through to your site visit, through to the actual award of your accreditation, that we keep everything on track as it should be. So these are the 2 versions that are available. Included free of charge within the Prime license is the do-it-yourself process. But if you prefer to have a hand-holding project managed process, then you can go for the Prime Plus. It will cost you something more. But if that will give you better peace of mind, then that's definitely for you. And at the moment, we are fast heading towards the June 2026 deadline, which was when the last cutoff was for the old unit standards. So it's very, very important to get your QCTO accreditation in place. And we've been so successful with licensees already getting their accreditation in place with the first aid, etc. And we look forward to helping you. So this is just an example of some of the site visits. We always get lots of compliments about how well our site visits have been prepared, and also the quality of the equipment and the quality of the training material. So I think that, in terms of quality, this is really what we feel very strongly about. We really want you to be head and shoulders above the competition out there. And when people see that you are licensed with INTRA, they immediately know that you stand for a certain very, very high level of quality.
Great, Penny, thank you so much. So it's so important that you get your own accreditation, get to know how to do the accreditation, because we do know that the QCTO have new rules. One of the things that they're going to say to you is that you can only get 5 programs accredited at any one time. Now, if you're paying a consultant to do the accreditation every time, it's going to cost you, as I say, an arm and a leg. So get to know it yourself, and this is part of the process. This will equip you to do that, and you'll be able to do it knowledgeably. So as the programs come out, you'll be able to do it, and you'll save yourself an inordinate amount of time and money and effort. Maybe you don't do it, maybe somebody on your team do it. Okay. Now, Penny mentioned, and this is really exciting, that there's new skills programs that have just been published. So let's start with the first aid, which were published back in 2023. Very briefly, the first aid programs replaced the old General Safety Regulation 3, Level 1, 2, and 3 first aid courses, and they brought out the basic, the intermediate, and the advanced. And we already have a couple of dozen of our licensees that have been accredited for that. So that's the first one. Now, what does that word published mean, Penny?
So when the part qualifications, full qualifications, or skills programs are finally approved by the QCTO, then they go through a final edits, etc., before they are published. And this was one of the reasons why there was such a delay since June of this year. was that there were some inconsistencies with the FISA documents that had to be corrected, and there were quite extensive edits done. And that's why there was a delay. And unfortunately, until such time as they were published, we could do absolutely nothing.
And where are they published?
So they published on the QCTO website, and you just look for skills programs, all skills programs, and you can sort under credits. So we are really looking at, and our training providers are focused on the short 1 day, 2 day, 3 day courses, which are typically under 8 credits. And it's wonderful now that there is an array, if you like, a small variety at least. It's a starting point. But yeah, we're looking forward to those that are coming through. And typically you will have the curriculum document and the supporting document available for you to download on the website. So you can go and do that today and have a look exactly at the different subjects and the content. And this is one that we've already just almost finished completing. And Ken is just doing some of the final checks, and it will be out for peer review with our licensees.
Okay, so with the first aid accreditation, there's quite a lot involved in terms of who may do the training and what kind of training aids are going to be required and what sort of venue and places like that. So first aid, to get the accreditation, it's a bit of work from your side, and you're going to have to prove certain things. But here's our first program that is literally, Penny calls it the low-hanging fruit. Every single employer needs to know how to do a hazard identification and risk assessment. Remember what I said about Section 8? Identify the dangers, hazards, and risks. So at last, we're really pleased to see that the QCTO has published the Operational Risk Assessor Program. Level 3, 2 credits, which means that once you know how to do it, you'll be able to run these programs for every single employer that feels as though they need some assistance with HIRA, hazard identification and risk assessment. Okay, so I'm working on the training material at the moment. This is how far I've got, and there's a lot more to do on it. We want to make sure that it is as high quality as possible. And I know, and I'm just going to say this, maybe I'm a little bit cautious about it. There are people out there in the marketplace just dumping training material on health and safety people. When the QCTO comes around, they reject it. Then you paid your money, and then you have to rewrite the training material. So here we are busy working with it. We've got a team working on it. And there's a number of documents that you'll get. Now, here are the programs that Penny was talking about. The first one is the Operational Risk Assessor. Now, that's the one we've got in hand. And there are the remaining 10 that they've just published. So it's exciting, really, really exciting. Now, if you look at the titles on the left-hand side, you'll see an SP, that's the skills program number, then the title, and it says the Essential OHS Compliance Insurer. Now, that's typically legal liability. And we have a program in the legal compliance segment called the ACTRAC, and similarly, the Health and Safety Rep program. So in between getting our act together for QCTO and the accreditation, you'll receive training material, which is legal compliance training material. So in other words, you're going to be getting 2 for 1. You'll get the legal compliance program, and you will get the QCTO accredited or aligned material. So very exciting. Then evacuation marshal, incident investigation. Then there is an intermediate compliance insurer. Then we've got emergency response and evacuation. Advanced compliance insurance. Now that's a pretty advanced program. And if you look at the level, is level 5 and level 6 and 5 credits. So you can see it's climbing in credits. Then incident investigation team leader, workplace risk assessment specialist, and health and safety rep, high risk work areas. Okay, that's a mouthful. So that's what you can expect in the near future, and we'll be dealing with these things as we go along. All our licensees go through orientation with us.
I think what's important is that for the Prime and the Prime Plus and the Platinum licensees, they receive these training materials as they are checked and finally edited and made available on our Google Drive. So they receive these free of charge. They don't have to now put their hand in their pocket each and every time, paying another 3,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. It's all included within your upfront fee. So this is a massive, massive ongoing value.
Absolutely. Now, TETA, the Transport SETA, has actually published hand in hand with the QCTO a number of more sophisticated programs for road transportation. Now, at this stage, what we say to our clients is that if you need this training material, please let us know. We haven't developed it yet because it's not on the priority list. However, if you urgently need it, talk to us and we'll see if one of our developers can do it. The same applies to these programs.
So HWCTA have also got approval for development of the following 7 skills programs, and we're very excited, of course, and can't wait for ergonomics in particular.
Yes.
But because they're in development, we can expect this still to go through a process, and we're not going to see these before early next year, 2026. But we're really looking forward to those. And once again, we'll be developing those on behalf of our Prime Plus, and Platinum licenses. So you will have access to those as part of your bundle. So you can see how the value escalates on an ongoing basis.
Absolutely. So getting your accreditation as quickly as possible so you get your foot in the door and you start understanding how these processes work is essential. Now, I just want to point out here that you'll notice that when we talk about these approved, they're approved, but they've not been allocated an SP number, a skills program number.
Yes, they're in development.
They're in development. So they are not ready to be published. When they are published, we'll notify you and everybody else. Okay. Similarly, the LGCTA has brought out 7 new programs as well for development. However, I just want to say, however, with that tone of voice, is that this is for professional firefighters. This is not for industrial firefighter 1 or 2 day courses.
Yes, but the good news is they do have the more basic firefighting skills programs approved for development. So they will be in the queue behind these ones. And we can expect to see those in 2026 as well. So we'll be really, really looking forward to that. In the meantime, our legal liability fire track program has been very, very successful and well received, and it's definitely a great basis for you to start with.
Okay, so we mentioned that this is a professional, I mentioned that this is a professional course. Have a look at the credits. So it's level 5, 10 credits, 15 credits, 15, 20 credits, 15 credits, 20 credits. And if you know anything about credits, it determines the length and duration of the course. The level is obviously the level of difficulty or level of sophistication, but a 20 credit course, you then work on the basis of each credit is equal to 10 notional hours. You go, what is a notional hour? That's the amount of time that you're going to be doing training. 10 notional hours times 20 is 200 hours. Now, that's not the amount of time that you're actually going to stand in front of the class. The formula that they've got is that you take the 200 and you divide it by 3, about 30%. And that will tell you how many days this course is. So a 20 credit course is 200 hours. Divide that by 3, that'll tell you. So that gives you an indication. Now, we'll be dealing with all of this for those of you that don't know how it works, and we'll definitely be getting into it more and more and more. Now, many people ask the question, what about working at heights? Is it mentioned anywhere? Unfortunately, not. So far, QCTO has not developed anything, and for many people, the working at heights unit standards have actually been suspended. But as Penny's just said now, it is critical. So the Institute of Working at Heights has another process that they're following at the moment.
Yes. So Dr. Alti Creel, I was just chatting to her the other day. They started an interim process which enabled them to give certification to training providers in working at heights. The old unit standards for working at heights, the old 22, 998, etc., those have all been extended until the end of June 2026. So this has been very, very helpful. A lot of our licensees were already accredited with the SETA for those, and they've been able to continue using that SETA accreditation in the meantime. But June 2026 is coming, so very, very important to get in with the IWH. They've got a whole process. You need to register with the ASDSA first, and then there's a process that they have for you. But if you are if this is a very important area for you, then get hold of Lizani there. There's the email address at the bottom. And we are in touch with them. We'll be evolving some of our training materials also to answer their interpretation and what they're doing, and have those available as part of our license next year.
Now, just to clarify something, if you're not accredited with a SETA for working at heights, you can't get accreditation. So the SETAs aren't accrediting anybody. So our suggestion is collaborate. And we've got a network of licensees, and you can then set yourself up in business. And then within maybe your geographical area, you can find somebody who can work with you, and you collaborate on that score. Okay, now, how much is this all going to cost? So I'm going to ask Natalie to come in. She's been sitting there very, very quietly. We're going to go through the pricings, and then she will make sure that there is a quotation that you can receive, and you've got it in writing to show to your management, your partner, or so forth. So Natalie, standing by, let's go with the first one.
Sure. So the platinum license is usually negotiated depending on the amount of employees and branches, but it starts at 105,500, and you'll see our Black Friday discount in the yellow, 10% off. All prices are exclusive of VAT.
Yep. And then we've got Prime that we've been talking about.
Yes, then we have our most popular Prime license, upfront fee of 49,500, less the 10% discount, comes in at 44,550. The monthly license fee on that is 1,500 Rand per month. Our Prime Plus option has an upfront fee of 69,500, less the 10% discount, 62,550, also with a monthly license fee of 1,500 per month.
So remember what we said with Prime Plus is you'll have a hand-holding exercise. We won't do it for you, but we will help you get it, and we'll guide you. And there are certain things that Penny will do or her team will do. But remember, it's still your business, and you'll still be responsible for the basic provision of all the documentations, things like that. Right, then, Natalie.
Then we have our basic license, which has an upfront fee of 29,500, less the 10% discount, makes it 26,550, also with a monthly license fee of 1,500 per month. And then we have our starter bundle, which comes in at 15,500 Rand upfront fee, less the 10%, 13,950, and that has a monthly license fee of 500 Rand per month.
So those of you that have met Penny or will meet Penny, her nickname is Money Penny, like the James Bond character. So Money Penny and Natalie were talking about another discount that they want to give. I went, really? Okay, let's hear this, Penny and Natalie.
I think it's Natalie's.
So we've decided for those that have joined live today, if you request an invoice and make payment by this Friday, we will give you an additional 5% off whichever package you choose, making that 15% discount, which is really such value. And it's just for those that are live on this call today.
And
So
to
if you would like to
celebrate,
yeah,
Yes,
celebrate.
absolutely.
the OHS
So if you would like to
sales
make
programs.
Yes, if you would like to make use of that opportunity, then just pop me a WhatsApp and say quote, and then we can put that together for you.
One of the things that we feel strongly about is that getting people up and running as quickly as possible. All told, if you had to take something like the Prime license, the entire value, if we had to add every single element, every service, every program, every product, and I mean, you're just putting an e-learning program or platform together, is about 80,000 Rand. Now, all of that is more than 250,000 Rand. Is that right, Penny?
That's correct.
So you're getting huge value here. But I want to say this. Remember, any money that is invested in your business is tax deductible as long as you keep all the documents up to proof. But tax deduction in terms of Section 11A, that means that the taxman pays a large portion of these costs. And then finally,
we sell our training material individually for 2,604 Rand and 35 cents.
and by the way, you can get the training material on our website. So we have a shop there, and you can go there and pay with a credit card. It's as easy as that. Fantastic. Natalie, thank you so much. I trust that everybody would want to make contact with Natalie, but she'll be back in a short while to talk about the online marketing presence. So that's the 10% saving, and now I need to change the slide and say 15% saving.
Well, it's just a special for today.
Okay, so the ladies are excited. Right, let's talk about licensee support with the system. And I just mentioned the online marketing presence. Natalie's got a degree from UCT in media. And she's helped a couple of dozen of our licensees with the social media aspect and so forth with their businesses. Natalie, would you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. So what's included in the basic and prime license is an online have your own business. You sometimes when it comes to marketing, this is usually something that falls to the side. So to just give you a step up in that regard, I help you get going and get present and visible on a couple of important platforms. I set those up for you. I give you a whole lot of resources that you can refer to help get going with your digital marketing.
100%. And then once it's up and running, she will help your person that's going to take over from her just to get up and running as well, so that there's a focus. It's about 5 hours worth of service from her. Good. Thanks, Nat. We're on to the next one. Now, one of the things that we do, because we run this as a business, we have regular orientation sessions. There is a short onboarding session with Penny right in the beginning, you and your team. Then we do a monthly orientation session, and then we do ongoing mentoring. We often have people contacting us, and where do I get this? Where do I go for that? And so forth. Today, somebody sent me a message saying, where do I find an AIA, an authorized or approved inspection authority for a given topic? And that's what we do. We'll provide them with the contact, and it's up to them to negotiate and put it together. We have an operations manual, which you'll receive as a licensee, and it gives you lots of hints and tips and guidance and lots of experience in terms of my own personal experience in terms of running a health and safety training business. And then finally, you might find yourself in a situation where you have other people in other countries that you want to run courses for.
I think this is one of the big benefits actually of being an INTRA licensee, is that you're able to collaborate and partner with other licensees that are maybe more skilled in different areas than you are, and that have different accreditations, maybe international accreditations also, and verifications and licenses and approvals, etc., etc. So, for example, if you are not, first aid is not your thing at all, you're just more interested in general health and safety, but you have a client who obviously does need first aid training, you can collaborate with a licensee in your area who is qualified and accredited for first aid training. And this has been a massive benefit to licensees, especially with the confusion and the slow pace of the changeover to the QCTO. They've really had to rely on this to be able to partner with other licensees that had the necessary accreditations and skills.
Yes, so you don't forego the business. And if you're running it as a business and you're making profit, you don't want to lose all the money, but you can collaborate and obviously share in it. And that collaboration is between you and them, and we're not involved in that.
Yes, and it's also a big help geographically. So maybe if you are based in one part of the country, of course,
or one part of Africa,
or the Middle East, and you have clients who are looking for a more complete spread, then you can partner with others as well.
100%. So we have people from literally Cape Town to Cairo, and you can talk to them, multiple languages, and we have sessions. We recently had a session on AI. So if you're running a training program in a different country, you can translate the training material into that language, which is really exciting, and we'll teach you how to do that. Okay, so we're coming to the end of the presentation. What I want to do is I want to say, make sure that you've got all the relevant information. Please get hold of the copy of the prospectus, and you can go on to INTRA-SAFE.co.za, request more info, and you'll receive the prospectus. By tomorrow, the latest Black Friday prospectus will be online, and it will also include these 10 and 11, or the 11th new program, which we'll get round to this evening, and we'll put that together. That means you can take it to your manager or to your partner or to whoever works with you, for you, and so forth, and you can discuss it with them. Now, remember what I said, you've got to do your due diligence, and that due diligence includes print it, go through it with a highlighter, make sure that you've got a list of questions, set up an appointment with Natalie, and then she can set up a Zoom meeting one-on-one with you, Penny, myself, and whoever. Now, very important, if you're interested right now, make sure that you get a quote, so you get all of this in writing. You know, it's one of the things that I say to people is go into a deal like this with your eyes wide open. Know what you're getting into, read the terms and conditions, the features and benefits, and things of that nature, and talk to Natalie or Penny in terms of your funding, talk to them about your deliverables, talk to them about your your timelines and things of that nature. But right now, it is my opinion that the sooner you get your accreditation in place, because can you imagine what it's going to be like at the QCTO offices with thousands of applications coming in for just this risk assessor program, never mind the remaining 10. So the sooner you do it, the better for you. And of course, it also takes a little bit of pressure off the QCTO. So the next step is please book a meeting with Natalie, and we can do it via Zoom or WhatsApp. And you and I, or Penny and I, and Natalie can answer your questions. And remember, it's not just a 10% saving today. It's the ladies have made it 15% for today.
Well, yeah, it's just a special for today, and that's for you to confirm and pay by Friday of this week. So please do feel free to take advantage of our generosity. But we really wanted to celebrate. We've been waiting for 2 years for these OHS skills programs to start trickling through. And it's so exciting that yesterday they were actually published on the QCTO website, and we're very excited.
So finally, those of you that have been watching the presentation, please grab your phone and open the camera. Take a photograph of Natalie's marketing number, 082 499 6911. That's 082 499 6911. And our website, which is INTRA-SAFE.co.za. And at the same time, you'll be able to request other documentations, things like that, on the website and or via WhatsApp. I want to hand over to Natalie and just see if there's anything else that she would like answered. And I know that she's going to take a look at whatever comments are in the chat box. And I want to say to Natalie and to Penny and to the rest of our team, thank you so much. If you have come across this webinar via YouTube, please note that we'll stand by and we look forward to your messaging as well. We won't know who you are until such time as you make contact with us. So I trust you've taken a photograph of that. I trust that you understand what the discounts are, the 15% for what today, and then the 10% for the rest of November. This entire Black Friday offering is available for November. And with that, thank you so much for your participation. I'm going to switch off the recording, and then I'm also going to just have a question and answer time with you.